Let's start from New Testament off at the bottom because we just cheated in order to get to some base. 37, halacha above, beginning of the Mishnah. Haish Madir is beno b'nazir. A father can make a son into a nazir. Now, it's in the Bavli, it's a machlokas whether it's the rice or the rabbanon, whether you can do it on Torah level or only rabbinic level. And but Yerushalmi never addresses that, so I don't know what the Yerushalmi holds about that. But Ishmael is beno nazir, ve'en Ishmael is beno nazir. A woman cannot make her son into a nazir. Okay, it's only right. The father again, we don't know if it's the rice or rabbanon. Ketzad, how does it work to countermand this nazir? So actually, the ketzad here. What? No, if somebody wants to cancel the kids naziros, not cancel the spiritual powers in naziros. If he shaved, himself or relative shaved him, micha, or he protested, or shemicho kruvim, or his relatives protested, that cancels the naziros of the minor. Now, it's interesting halacha that normally your relatives have no power over you other than your father or your mother. But here, any relative can actually protest the nazirus as unfair, it's like child abuse, and counteract that nazirus. Haiso beimo mufreshas, if you had an animal which is already set aside, hachatos, and now this is talking about the story about an individual who the child. There was an animal set aside for his nazirus. Hachatos tamus. There was a chatos, it must die. Vola, it was an ola. Tikarev, it sacrifices an ola. Shlomim, it was a shlomim set aside. Cover shlomim, sacrifice shlomim. B'nechom yom echad, and they're consumed for one day. Ve'en tunim lechem. They don't require bread because only an actual nazir requires bread. Haylo mostumi, if you had money which was not yet specified for which carbon should fall, Yipun Nadava, it goes to buy generic olos to be brought as a voluntary obligation, voluntary carbon to Beis HaMikdash. Most mufurashim, if you have money which is already designated, the meichatos, the money which is designated for the purpose of the chatos, Yechli Amelch, goes to the Dead Sea. Lo nani, the one may not derive benefit from it. For lo mali, but there is no me'ilah because it's never going to end up being carbon. The me'olah, the money set aside for the purpose of bringing in olah. The va'olah, they should bring the burnt offering. Umali, but there is me'ilah on that money because it was set aside for the purpose of becoming a carbon. To make shlamim, the money set aside to be shlamim. You'll be shlamim, you bring shlamim for that. We're cheating for one day. Ve'en to lechem, do not require bread. Period. A child can use the karbanos set aside by his father, who then obviously died, in order to complete his own nazirus. However, a daughter cannot use the karbanos left aside by his father. It's a unique relationship between father and son. Keita, how does it work? Mishael Aviv Nazir. So his father was a Nazir. Most Nazirus, and he set aside money generically for his Nazirus. Umeis, he died. V'omar, and the son said, Hareini Nazir, I want to be Nazir. I'm Menashe Galech on the condition that I will be able to shave based on the Nazirus Mosaba, based on the Nazirus of the money left by my father. Probably should be most Nazirus Abba, the money left by the Nazirus of my father. Rabbi Yosef, he said, no, period. That works. Rabbi Yosef argues. Rabbi Yosef said, Hare elu yiplu ninadava. In such a case, then the money's got to go to buy absolute karbanos. It can't go for the Nazirus of a kid. Why? Because he lays down his axiom. Well, he doesn't yet lay it down. Says this kid cannot shave based on the zeros set in the money designated for the zeros of his father. When can he shave based on the money set aside for the zeros of his father? I'll tell you. when already the son was a Nazir in the lifetime of his father. Mishahaya hu v'aviv Nazirim, if he and his father were Nazirim simultaneously. In other words, he wasn't Nazir ready before his father died. And since he was already Nazir at the time his father was a Nazir, his father set aside money which was not specified for the purpose of his Nazirus, umeis, and then the father died. So in that case he could shave on the Nazirus of his father. But not in a case where the father's Nazirus completely and totally preceded the son's Nazirus. In other words, the son's Nazirus has to begin before the death of the father. Okay? It's kind of like the issue of Davar Shalbolam, being selling or buying something which doesn't yet exist. So Rabbi Yossi holds that his Nazirus has to have existed at the same time as his father's in order the Karbanos go towards towards the son's Nazirus. Otherwise, they don't exist at the same time, so there's no connection between one and the other, and one cannot work for the other one. Okay, Rabbanan argue. Rabbanan say, after the father's death, the son can now become a Nazir from scratch and use the father's Karbanos. Ish. Says more, Ish, any other Ish. I only know, now this is not talking about Nazirus. We're talking about Saras. We're going to bring it back around to Nazirus. I only know that a man becomes a leper. Isha minayin, I don't know the woman becomes a leper. Talmulomar tzarua, because it says leper. Bet isha makes a difference if it's a man or a woman, being katan or even a child. In case lomanamar ish, so why it say ish? Lenient shalamata, because in order to specify that which is coming further down is only applying to men. Ish pareh parem, a man rends his clothing, means a metzora, and grows his hair. Eina isha parasu paremes, however, a woman does not have to rend her clothing nor grow her hair. Now, getting back to Nazirus. Ha'ish madir va'ish migalech. Specifically a father, can cause his son to be a Nazir. Not he himself. Even a woman could do that, but it could cause his son to be a Nazir. And a man can shave on the basis of his father's Karbanos. Okay? So those are specifically father-son relationship. A father making a son into a Nazir, and a son shaving on the basis of Karbanos left by his father. Women don't figure into this relationship at all. It's only father-son. Okay? Now, it doesn't really say, if we learn out from a pasuk, that's why it's a machlokas with whether in the Bavli, whether it's the Rabbanan or Loch Moshe Misinai. But it's not learned of any psukim. You mind if I turn the air conditioning? I think that's it. Okay. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan B'Shem Meir said, Yochanan said, name Rabbi Meir, Chavdal Dvarim, there are 24 things, Mikulei Beishamah, which Beishamah was lenient, Mikulei Beisil, and Beisil was stringent. V'zeh commandment is one of them. Beishamah says, Eino ish madiris b'no b'nazir. Beishamah says, a parent may not make a son into a Nazir. Beisilmim, the tribe of Beisil says, as in our Mishnah, madir b'no b'nazir, a parent can make his son into a Nazir. Tani, we learned, B'nizram Nazirei Mirechem. In a Nazirus, it works even from the womb. Right? B'nizirei Mirechem. Even from the womb. Again, we don't know if it's the rice or Rabbanan. Isaboyim Emer, one says, some said, until he's 13. In other words, it gets 2 hairs as an adult. Isaboyim Emer, some say even only until he gets 12 to be 12 years old. Only means when a boy can make a neder. A boy's neder generally is considered to be effective a year before his bar mitzvah. So the Nazirus that the father takes upon the son can only be up to a year before the bar mitzvah, according to the second opinion. Not till the bar mitzvah itself. Shimshon was special. It wasn't the father or mother who took it. God told him. So that's unique. Okay? Hakomodim, everybody agrees. Shim Yovel Lonas and Dorim, that if he comes to the, if he's already 12, there's a question to when it lasts, but if he's already 12, Shayna Mazir, you cannot make him Nazir at that point. Now, getting back to the mission, it says, Gilech o shegilchu krovim. If he shaved himself, or relative shaved himself, Micha, or he protested Shmichu krovim, or relatives protested over him, B'chol Lashonos, B'kamisha Micha. In any language which is used, that sufficiently it's considered as if he protests. In other words, it's a valid protest. However, Yoshav Lo Livnei Sapar. Now, there are many interpretations of this Gemara that if a kid sat in front of the barber, I'm going to interpret like the Or Sameach interpret. It says if a kid sat in front of the barber. Now, it's interesting. If you're an Avel Rahman al-Islam, during Shiva, specifically during Shloshim actually, and you go to the barber, that cancels your Shloshim. That's a sign that your Shloshim is over, right?
Even if it's not over.
What? No. Even if it's over. But that can be a termination of Shloshim. Okay? Your hair is long. I mean, it's not for father and mother, you're not supposed to, till your hair is longer, but for other relatives, that'll terminate the Shloshim for you. Okay, you can't take a haircut. So the thing is that, did you forget that it was here tonight?
No.
Okay, fine. So here, what if the child sits in front of a barber, right? What's the status then? So it says that a child sitting in front of a barber, he doesn't have das. If he goes to the barber, it just might be because he doesn't know that he's a Nazir, or doesn't understand his Nazirus. So that's not considered being like a Mechal. That doesn't necessarily terminate the Nazirus. And he might be required to keep the Nazirus afterwards nonetheless. However, if he sits in front of the barber, it's not a protest. But what about if a relative takes in the barber? Oh, it's his aunt says, I can't take it anymore, you look so disgusting, the heck with this Nazirus business, and she takes him to the barber. Or even if she doesn't say and takes to the barber. Since you know that relatives can protest the Nazirus of a child, does that suffice or does that not suffice? Is that considered to be a tacit protest, the fact that they took him to a barber? The Gemara doesn't answer. Okay? Ma'usha tochel alav Naziruso, Nazirus aviv. Oh, the Or Sameach says an interesting thing, though. He says, if the relatives give him to drink wine or make the child tummy, it doesn't cancel the Nazirus. That's just an Aveira. It's not canceling the Nazirus. Cutting the hair is a sign of terminating the Nazirus. That's a sign of protestation. Just giving him to drink or making him tummy, that's not a sign of protestation. Okay? Ma'ush tochel of Nazirusov and Nazirus aviv ka'achas. What about a kid comes to 13 years old, and he himself wants to become a Nazir. Oh, actually, it's not 13. He's 12.
No, like this same thing in Shimshon. His Nazirus was canceled when Delilah...
Right, that's cutting his hair, terminated his Nazirus. Right. That was a mystical thing, but that was the same idea. What about if a kid is 12, and and his father, according to Bin, that his father can make him a Nazir until 12, or until 13 also. So his father made him a Nazir, and we're not sure when his father's, the end point of the father's, and then he takes upon himself a Nazirus himself, is that he doubled his Nazir simultaneously for his father's obligation upon him and his own obligation. Marshal of Nazirus Avikachas. So it says, Marmaisa Rabbi Chanina ben Chanina. So Marmaisa was Rabbi Chanina, the son of Chanina. I'm not sure if that's correct or a typo. But in any event, I think of the Bible, it has a different name. Anyway, Marmaisa Rabbi Chanina ben Chanina, Sheidiro Aviv, his father made him a Nazir. But Shigamiel want to check him. He may be state source if he has 2 hairs, then his father can't make him a Nazir anymore. Amalo, so he said to the kid said, Chanina ben Chanina said, Name Ma'ata Bodkani, why are you checking me? In Nazirus Abba Alai, the Nazirus of my father's upon me, I'm ready Nazir, I accept that Nazirus. Vim lav, and if not, already nazir mikvar, I'll make myself a nazir. Amar Rav Gamliel and Shachar Rosho. Rav Gamliel got up and kissed him on his head. He said, "Batuach ani, I'm sure Shiat Yotzim and Azikna, you're not going to leave old age. Torah Ros B'Yisrael till you paskin childless in Am Yisrael." Amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Tzadok, ani received Yosef v'Dorish b'Yavne. I saw him, the Rabbi Chanina ben Chanina, dashing in the Yavne. Obviously, he made it to be a posek. So, be it as it may, we see that there's a time in which there can be double capacity, double whammy, which both the father can take till bar mitzvah and the son can begin at 12 and take for himself at that point. Okay, so they both have jurisdiction at that point. Okay, says more further. I'm Rabbi Yossi Rechina. Now I'm going to interpret this the Beckoff way because I didn't like what anybody else said. Rabbi You have a cotton who's a Kohen, and he does Malika in the Beis HaMikdash. Right? The Malika is with slicing the neck with the fingernail, right? So Mao Shetiachu, can he eat, because I consider to be a valid chatos that it could be consumed by the Kohanim. Doesn't matter. Adat makshi leilam likasov. Instead of asking about the malika of the bird, kashise l'shchitasov. Ask whether you can slaughter a bird. Why are you going jumping to malika? Ask if he has the right to slaughter a cotton. Because you know it's Hoshayim Seftuchun. If a cotton can slaughter, you need a gadol omed agavav, an adult standing over him. So why don't you ask about shchita? Says more that no. I want to ask a double question. Tama by shchitas was something else. The only one question whether you could check or not. But here it'd be shtei sfekos, two sfekos. A, the suffix of shchita, and B, the suffix of chulin bazora. Because maybe if his lika's not good, right? If his lika's not good, so it's like chulin shenish to bazora. It's like, improper. I don't know if chulin shenish to bazora is the right term. So I say which is improperly shech in the Beis HaMikdash, right? I don't know if chulin bazar is the right term, but let's call it chulin bazar. Okay, in other words, he's shechting something properly in the Beis HaMikdash, and that's the second suffix. Says not true. There's even here it's one suffix. It is here. It is something of chulin bazar. It's only one suffix. Because it can't be chulin bazar. Because that what you learn. Hanoicher v'amakir is somebody who rips or uproots, meaning he kills an animal in any way other than shchita. There's no shchita. It's not considered to be a shchita of chulin bazar. Now I'm thinking out loud, but I think that I actually have to concede the point to one of the other Mefarshim I saw, who says that it's played out where the boy himself was makdish the korban. It's not just that he's doing malik on it, but he's also was makdish it. Because otherwise, why would it be chulin bazara? So it must be the question is both on the validity of his malika and on the validity of his making it hektish. We're asking on both aspects. That must be the case. Okay? Otherwise, the question doesn't make sense. I think that's true.
The term shchita
not in the Beis HaMikdash, but let's ask about shchita stam. You never shech the bird in the Beis HaMikdash. It's just a generic. Ask about shchita in general.
Oh, see, it's kosher.
Yeah, it's kosher. I'm not do the Beis HaMikdash. I don't know for form sacred, but it sounds like it, yeah. Okay, only since he's a kid, only since he's under 13. So in any event, so it says more, so here it's not a question of chulin bazara, because there's no such thing as chulin bazara unless it's shechted and malika done wrong. It's not shchita. So if it's a chulin bazara. Rabbanim b'keisari mishem Rabbi Yossi Rechania said, afilu safek echreinu. It's not even a question of improper shchita. Kiman damar ain't shchita sa'of. Because there's an opinion which shows that no shchita for a bird ain't mechuveres, ain't shchita mechuveres midivim dvar Torah. There's no shchita for birds d'oraisa. The shchita for birds are d'rabbanan. So therefore, the whole shiloh is out the window. You thought that malika You thought by Malika there are two questions: A, that maybe the Malika is no good, and B, maybe it's Chulin Bazara. But it's not one question. It's not even two questions. It's not two questions. It's not even one question. It's not a question of Chulin Bazara because Chulin Bazara is not even due to Shchita. This is not Shchita. Also, it's not a question of whether it's a nevela or not via Malika, because there's no concept of nevela midaraisa by a bird. That's precisely perhaps why the Torah did allow Malika by a bird. There's no concept of nevela. By an animal, if you mess up in the shechita, it's a nevela. But by a bird, there's no such thing as nevela. So I think what the Gemara is saying is that if it's, therefore the Malika Mistama is good, right? Because the Malika, we're not as concerned with validity when it comes to birds. When it comes to animals, so then the procedure has to be very precise. When it comes to birds, it's not necessary that it's precise because there's no shechita for birds daraisa. Okay, that's a little bit choppy, the Gemara, but that's what I think it means. Says Gemara, how do we know that there's no shechita for birds daraisa? Because it says vayishtuchu lohem shatach vayishtuchu. It says when the quail came, they made piles. Their making piles was the shechita, because they just knocked them over the head and took them. They didn't actually have to slaughter them. So you see, with the rice, they didn't actually slaughter birds, okay? Because the quail they took without slaughtering. Says the Gemara, "Akadum b'shavin hu uvno nazir." We said in our Mishnah that a father can leave over his karbonos for his son's nazirus. That's okay when he and his sons are similar to Nazirus, Nazir Achas, in that they both have 30-day with simple Nazirus. Who Nazir Achas, what if he's one Nazir, but no, and his son is Nazir Shtayim, is a double Nazir. Who Nazir Torah, he's coming on Nazirus and Tara, no Nazir Tameh, his son became Tameh. Who Nazir Tameh, or vice versa, he's Tameh, no Nazir Torah, and his son is a Nazir Torah. What in all of these cases, are their karbonos carry over? We don't know. Period. My time, Rabbi Yossi. Why is Rabbi Yossi that in order for this father's karbonos to carry over to the son already has to be nazir in the lifetime of his father's? Because it says, Yakivenu la Hashem al Nizro. He should sacrifice the korban to Hashem on his nazirus. Sheikdom Nizro l'korbono. His nazirus has to precede his korban. Below shukdum korbono l'Nizro, not that his korban precedes the nazirus. So therefore, any korban which precedes the nazirus, even if it's for your father's nazirus, before you become a nazir, that's not a valid korban for nazir. Boy, man, I wanted to say Rabbi Yehuda Yodi Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda will consider Rabbi Yossi that in a case where the father was a nazir, the son was a nazir during the father's lifetime, then his korban goes to his son as well. And even though Rabbi Yossi holds that it must. Even though Rabbi Yehuda holds that it can also be if the son only became a nazir after his father's death. Also, if the son became a nazir during his father's lifetime, he can use his father's korban for his nazirs. No, we found that their machlokus is drastic and polar. Ashkei Omer, we found that it says, in Bryce, I guess somewhere, lo du modi lo du modi lo du. Neither one concedes the other one. Each one holds the other one was incorrect. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi, the son must have been a nazir during his father's lifetime. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he must not have been a nazir during his father's lifetime. According to each time, respectively, under that scenario, the son gets the father's korbanos to use. Okay? Hajlach Mishama, next parak. Beishamar says, hektish tos. A slight change of page here, guys. Not major, it's still Nazirus, but Beishamar, the hektish, not tos and hektish. You make hektish inadvertently, it's hektish. You say, whoops, it's too late. It's already hektish. Okay? We're going to discuss this in detail, of course. Beisomrim, eno hektish, not hektish, and did you do it intentionally? Ketzad, how so? Amar shor shachar shiyotzim beisi rishon. If the guy says the first black ox to come out of my house should be a korban, hareu hektish, right? V'yotzel lov and a white one comes out. So Beishamai omrim hektish. Beishamai says tough. So he made a mistake, but that one's hektish. V'somrim eno hektish, it's not hektish. Similarly, if a guy said dinar zav shiyala b'yodi rishon, the first gold coin that comes up in my hands, hareu hektish. Well, Shagasni got a silver coin said, Bisharmim hektish is very tough, it's hektish. The Somrim, ain't no hektish, it's not hektish. Chavish Shali Ayin Shatala Biyodi Rishon, in the first barrel of wine, the commands of hektish, a real hektish. Well, Shoshem, gets oil instead, Bisharmim hektish, Shem says it's hektish, Ubisomrim, ain't no hektish, it's not hektish. Okay? Tamatini, we learned over there. And this is a question. The learner says in himself, the Trumos, Hamiskavi Loma Truma. So he said he wanted to make something Truma. He said he intended to make something Truma. Vamar Bay, let's slip the word Meiser. Or he intended to say Meiser. Vamar Truma, let's slip the word Truma. Or Ola, he intended to make something Ola, but let's slip the word Shlomim. Or vice versa, Shlomim Vamar Ola. Where it says none of these statements are valid. How come? What about Beisham who says Hektish Shro, Tosh, Shmei Hektish? So why does it work there as well? So two answers. Amr B'Yirmiyah, which argue with each other. Amr B'Yirmiyah said, Ba lo marchulin v'amar ola kadesha. If a person wanted to say chulin, but he said kodesh, it's kodesh no matter what. Amr B'Yosir said, Miskavin lakdish anokayamin. That's all he had in mind, to make it some kodesh. Elishu toy mishum davar acher. He only makes a mistake in terms of another kodesh. But if he said no intention of making something kodesh at all, then it does become kodesh even though we say hektish tosh shmei hektish. Now, Masnisa, the Mishnah of the Trumos, Mao. What's the story according to these various different approaches? Al-Baitis Rabbi Yirmiyah, according to Rabbi Yirmiyah, who said that if a person intended to say chulin and instead said ola, it's kadosh, right? So then, that Mishnah over there, which says that if you intend to say truma instead, meiser instead, so that it's not kadosh, that's only going like Beis Hillel holds hektish tosh lav shmei hektish. The hektish tosh is not considered to be hektish, but like Beis Shammai, if you said meiser, you said truma intend to say meiser, vice versa. So certainly it's kavachon. You intend to say chulin and said kodesh. That works. Certainly if you said one type of kodesh and intend to say another one type of kodesh, said another type of kodesh, that works as well. That's according to Rabbi Yirmiyah. According to Rabbi Yossi, Al Dai Rabbi Yossi Divrei Kol. According to Rabbi Yossi, no. The only time we say hektish tos shmei hektish is where you had in mind to be makdish, but you made a mistake for some other reason, some extrinsic reason. But if you didn't intend to do what you did at all, so then I say no hektish tos lav shmei hektish even according to Beis Shammai. So all my rules between Beis Shammai still according to him is all we had in mind to make some hektish, and you mistook what you said. We didn't have in mind to make hektish at all, so then it's not hektish. And then it said over there it says if you had in mind to make something meiser, which is not hektish, and you said truma, so that's not valid, right? So that won't work out correctly because Rabbi holds even in such a case that Beis Shammai holds it's hektish. According to Rabbi Yossi, in that case, it works out even according to Beis Shammai. So Beis Shammai holds that you have to have in mind there's some form of hektish, not to go from chulin to hektish or from meiser to hektish, which is just equally distant. Says the Gemara, bisvasayim below belev. It says that in order to be chayev, you have to have express something with your mouth, and not with which we take to mean with your lips. Shaming not with your heart. What if somebody really concludes in his heart he wants to bring a korban? Is he off the hook? No. Talmud Lomar. No, he is off the hook. One second, I forgot actually. No, yeah. The first time over here it says who excludes somebody who concluded in his heart. Any expression, even in the heart, is enough to make you chayiv. Shmuel said no. Gomer believes somebody who completes a conclusion in his heart, and chayiv is not liable. Until he enunciates it, until he verbalizes it. Didn't we learn? Anybody who's voluntary in their heart, something completes the heart is already liable to whatever he concluded in his heart. Somebody who concludes in his heart, Rather, he has to actually enunciate with his lips. When it says that which comes out of your lips, you should watch and do. That's already about something. You express something. So I do somebody who volunteers. Zab Gomer Belev. So it includes in his heart. So it's a question. Shmuel said you only chayev for a korban for a korban shvu. I think it is. What korban are you talking about? Yeah, a person lied. So it's only a person didn't fulfill his shvua. That's what I meant to say. A person didn't fulfill his shvua. It's only if he enunciated the shvua, not if he according to Shmuel, not if he just had in mind. I'm not sure I'm getting this right. Yeah, but the other Tana obviously held that even if you conclude something in your mind and you don't fulfill it, so then you're transgressing your shvur. So the question, what does Shmuel do with the pasuk? Because Shmuel says the way they're dashing livate means to enunciate in your heart, not to enunciate orally. So it says, Shmuel lekarbon, that what Shmuel said, that you have to enunciate. If you don't enunciate, you're not chayav a korban shvur for not having fulfilled your nether, is only vis-a-vis a korban. In other words, to be liable to bring a korban, of course, this is the way we pass it, to be liable to bring a korban for having transgressed the shvur, then it's only if you enunciate the shvur. But to be required to fulfill a shvur, then you're ready chayav if you conclude in your heart to make the shvur. Of course, conclusion means complete and total conclusion. That's sufficient to make you obligated to fulfill the shvur. But if you didn't have a mind if you didn't enunciate it verbally, actually, then you're not going to be liable to bring a korban. Okay? So it says, korban shvur for having lied on your oath, or not fulfilled your oath. Tanina Taman, Tamatim, we learned over there. Hamachanis Mos, this is a totally different tack. Hamachanis Mos, somebody who gathers together money. Varmit said, I gather this money for my machzis or shekel. Now, of course, he has much too much money. He has, instead of 50 cents, he has 75 cents. Okay? So what's with the extra quarter? So, Beishama Musara Nadav, Beishama says the excess money goes to Nadav, it's voluntary, Kobras and Beis Mikdash. But Musara Chulin, whatever's left over is Chulin. He didn't have to take the whole thing, he was just putting aside money towards the shekel. But whatever's left over is Chulin. Now, if he said, Sha'avi mehen shkolai, if he said explicitly, I'm going to bring from them my shekel, Sha'avi, even Beisham Regish Musara Chulin, whatever's left over is going to be Chulin. Because there he said explicitly, it's from them, not all of them. Says the Gemara, Elu Chatasi. If a person says this money should go to my chatas, and then specify, Shavim, everybody agrees from Musar, there's funds left over the door, they go to buy optional karbonos. Shavim mehen chatasi from them. Shavim, everybody agrees from Musar and Chulun, whatever's left over is Chulun, because again he said from them, he didn't designate all of them. Rabbi Yossi said, Ma pliga, when is there machlokas? Chim Beisil and Beishamai ben Mechanis protot. When he gathers, when he counts one by one. Avo Omer Elu. So then we say maybe he, or he gathered them together one by one. So we say maybe he'll intend a limited amount to become holy. Avo Omer Elu, but he says all of them together. So then, Kol Amma Moide, everybody agrees, Sham Mosar Nedova, everything left over is Nedova, because they all were dedicated for the purpose of buying korban. Rabbi Chizkiah Rabbi Yisrael said, Ma Pligo, no. When's the Machlokas Mechanis Protot? It's a Machlokas when he counts one by one. If they all become Kaddish, when he says, they all become Kaddish, or only the ones which are necessary. Avo Ba'omer Elu, but if he says all of them, everybody agrees that anything left over is chulin. Now everything left over is chulin because obviously exact opposite of what we said before. Before we said everything left over becomes what? Nedava has to go to korban. Now we're saying that everything left over that it becomes what? Becomes chulin. So, in essence, we said before that the machlokas we both days said the machlokas were the gathers them one by one. But the machlokas, according to Rabbi Yossi, named Rabbi Lazar, when he says Elu, then all of them are included in the korban, and those which use korban use korban, those used for voluntary korbanos use for voluntary korbanos. When he said, according to Rabbi Chizkiah and Rabbi Shem Rabbi Lezer, when he says on the contrary, when he says Elu, all this money, everybody agrees that the leftover is chulin because we know, according to him, they didn't tend to use all of it for kodesh. Amar Chizkiah said, Masnisa Messiah Rabbi. We have a brisa like Rabbi. Might be Mishnah. What is it? In any event, we have Mishnah or brisa like him. Let's see. Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon said, "Mabish kol luchatus." What's the difference? Just the brisa, obviously. Mabish kol luchatus. What's the difference? The machzis a shekel, and the money set aside for that, and the chatos, and the money set aside for that. El shkolim yesh lehem kitzvah. Shkolim, the machzis a shekel. Yesh loim kitzah have a specific amount. So it doesn't say have a specific amount. So then, even though you said elu, all this money should be my shekel. But we all know what did you really mean? What's the maximum? 50 cents. So therefore, the quarter for sure, whatever leftover quarter there is for sure chulin. Okay. So that's the difference you said between the corner of Bibi said when you say elu. The rest is chulin. It's the difference between shkolim and chatas. Because shkolim have a specific amount of money you have to give. Chatas has no limit of what you have to give. So if you said elu by shkolim, the leftover is considered to be chulin. If you said elu by chatas, the leftover is considered to be nedava. Okay? You have to bring karbanos from the leftover funds. Okay? Makes sense. So it says the water. Again, ma'amishlo chatas shkolim yesh l'kitzah, they have a limit. Ma'anan kayam. Says, well, what are you talking about? Ivar Mishavim Mayam Shkolai. It says Shkolim here, but Shkolai. So going to be my shekel Shikli should be. Klama might everybody Shamos Chulin. That the rest of is Chulin. Imamer Shavim Mayam Chatasi. If he says, I want to bring my chatas from this money, again, unspecified. So Klama might everybody Shamos Shamoisar. Chulin? Oh, because of Mehem. Sorry, of course. Because it says Mehem. So it says they're going to bring not from them, not Elu. Elu would be the issue, as we're going to see presently. It says Mehem, so he by Chatas, even though Chatas has no limit, but so he said Mehem from them, so he's already indicating that he doesn't intend to use all the money for the Chatas, right? So if he says Mehem, so no. Both by shkolim and by chatas, whatever's left over after he takes out the money is chulin. However, Elokeinu, the issue is the oimer elu. It says elu. So shkolim again, we'll just explain what we said a moment ago. Shkolim ma'idei shekitzvos and minateres. Shkolim ever said amount midoraisa. Most are chulin. Whatever's left over after he said elu is chulin. Chatos ayidei shekitzvos minateres. Since they have no specific parameters and limits from the Torah, Mosar and whatever's left over is the dava is voluntary. Ma avalei Rabbi Yossi. What does Rabbi Yossi do with this? Because Rabbi Yossi said wherever you said elu, whatever is left over is considered to be, even by shkolim, is considered to be the dava. So what does he do here? It says quite clearly, wherever he said elu, by shkolim, whatever is left over is considered to be chulin. What does he do with this brisa? So Basal explained, mechanis pro throat kavesel. It's when you gathered up the coins one by one. Then only since you indicated separateness of coins, so therefore they remain separate, and only the ones that are supposed to go to the chatas become kodesh, not the ones which are for the shekel become kodesh, not the ones which are not going to go to shekel. Again, that's even though you said elu, since you gather the coins one by one, it indicates that it's not you don't want the kodesh to be chal on all of them. Hivish shiklo. What if a guy said inside a shekel? Saru shuchayev. And he thought, because he thought it was liable, but him saying Shchayev turns out it's not liable because he already paid this year. So low Kaddish. So the shekel he set aside is not Kaddish. Hivish 9, what if he set aside 2? Maybe one for him, one for his son. Turns out he's only chayiv one. Also, what do you do with that second one? What do you do with it? So we don't say it goes out to chulin. Let's skip a line because skips a line. Let's learn out from here. So he set aside his chatos. Shavush Chayiv and thought he was liable to bring chatos. But he said Shena Chayiv turns out I wasn't liable to bring chatos. Lo Kitsha, then it's not kodesh, because in order to be a chatos be kodesh, it also has to be preceded by what? In order to chatos be kodesh, it has to be preceded by a chait. So if it turns out he didn't sin, so the chatos is not a chait. See, with such lamdanim, we can't even think of that straight anymore, right? But a chatos without a chait is not a chatos. You got to sin in order to be chayiv a chatos, right? So, Hivish chatos, which was again 5 lines to the bottom. Sabashu chayiv and imtza shes. No, it's more for 6 lines bars. Sabashu chayiv imtza sheno chayiv. Loki cho, it's not kodesh. Hivish time. What if you are chayiv a chatos? Or you thought you sinned twice? You thought you ate 2 cheeseburgers. You only ate 1. So hivish chatos time. Sabashu chayiv time imtza sheno chayiv elachas. Also shnei maravile. What do you do with that second one? So let's go here. I'm going to go into the gears of the Ridbaz. He takes out the entire next line, Kormeda 2, and the gears should be Commander Amar Elu Nadava. According to Binu, it says that when you say Elu, the money goes to Nadava. Hachinami Nadava, the money goes to Nadava. Commander Amar Chulin, according to the opinion that. Whoops. Sorry, that goes in the next line. Just erase the next line. Sorry, scratch that. Mat avidle elaroya. Skip to the second line. What you do about it, skip the entire third line. Elaroya grazes. In other words, if you thought, see, that's more liability. If you thought you weren't chayav chatos, if you thought you weren't chayav chatos, but weren't chayav at all, so the korban set aside just goes out to pasture. It's okay. But if you were chayav for 1 sin, and you thought you're chayav for 2 sins, so then the second chatas already has to graze till it grazes. No, grazes also. No. I was right. The second korban becomes a chatas, quasi chatas. Gets some kedusha because it was an antecedent of sin. But it doesn't, of course, it's not sacrificed because it's superfluous, but you graze until it gets a mum, and then you redeem it. So here too, now I'm going to tell you the Rebaz's gear. So again, we read Elaroa Hacha, it should be Ma'at Avile, what do you do with it? Command my Elu Nadava, if you held Elu goes to Nadava, Hachanami Nadava, here to goes to Nadava. Command of Chulin, Elu goes to Chulin, Hachinami L'Chulin. So it depends. It's a nice explanation. Let me see if I can get it succinctly. If you set aside 1 kachatos when you're chayav 0, that's meaningless. If you set aside 2 chatos, you're chayav 1. Like you said. With our case, you set aside Elu L'Chatosi, right? You set aside money and said Elu L'Chatosi. So you set aside money and said Elu L'Chatosi. Whenever money is left over, it becomes what? An adava. So too, whenever animal's left over, it becomes an adava. So it can graze, and you can graze until it gets a mum, and then redeem it and use the money to buy a different korban for korbanos. But the leftover money comes in adava. So here, so we see that where you set aside 2 chatos, when you only chayav 1, it's called elu. So too, we set aside 2 animals in our case. We only chayav 1 for a case of, the case not of chatos, of course, but a case of shekel. It's not animals. You set aside a shekel. If you chayav 0 shkolim, you set aside 1 shekel, so that just becomes chulin. But if you have one shekel, you set aside two, so it's the same thing. It's like elu l'shikli, just like elu chatosi. Set aside the two animals. We really only have one. The second one comes in the dava. So you get to by shkolim. Now it becomes the same machlokes we had on top of the page. We had when a person says elu shkolim, these two should go to my shekel. So one opinion held since shekel is a davar kotzuv, it's set amount. So then the rest of it goes to chulin. So here the second shekel will go to chulin. But we had an opinion before which held that we said elu shkolai, the second shekel goes to a nadava, unless you counted each one specifically. If you tossed $1 on the table and said these are for my shekel, then the first 50 cents is shekel, and the second 50 cents is the machlokas. One opinion holds it's chulin, the other opinion holds it's nadava. According to opinion holds it's nadava, it's only considered to be chulin if you set aside them separately. First 50 cents and then another 50 cents. Not if you put the entire dollar on the table together. So that's again, the Ritbaz's Girsa, according to opinion which holds that bad when you say Elu goes to Nadava, here too, it's Elu and Nadava. They both go, the one goes to shekel, and the second goes to Nadava. According to opinion which said Elu, by a shekel it goes to chulin. So too when you set aside two and you only have one, the second one can go to chulin. Doesn't have to be a nadava. Okay? So the setting, I'm making it too long. I'll just say it succinctly. I'm not even falling asleep saying it's an amazing thing. Just to say it succinctly. Elu, when you say Elu, it's a machlokas. Whether the excess money goes back to chulin or becomes a voluntary korban. So if you set aside two shkolim, you're only chayav to set aside one, even without verbalizing the words elu. The same machlokus would apply. Is that considered to be the excess money is considered to be nadava, or the excess money is considered to be chulin? Okay. By a chatos, if you said elu chatosi, or you set aside two animals because you thought you were liable, you're only liable one. In both cases, no matter what, the excess animal or it's just like excess funds, where you said elu chatosi, the excess goes to kochim. Okay, Tam Tzinim, we learned over there. Bottom line, Homer says b'machvas. Now he said he wanted to bring a korban in a flat pan. Now this is a mincha, right? So he wanted to bring a pancake. Ve'evi b'mercheshes. But in the end, he brought a deep dish. Okay, he wanted to make a flat pizza. He brought a deep dish pizza. So now, why do you do this stupid thing? So we say the second. He was supposed to bring a deep dish, and he brought a flat pan. So even though the words in here should be lo yotza, he wasn't yotza. Because he's supposed to bring flat, and he brought deep. He was supposed to bring deep, and he brought flat. It's not yotza. Rabbi Yosef B'Shem Rabbi Shimon Lakish said to Beis Shammai. That's like Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai hektish tos hektish. Now, even though he meant originally to say flat pan, and he bought a flat pan, but since he said actually deep dish, it's got to bring deep dish. It's not Yosef. And vice versa. He thought to say deep dish, and he brought deep dish, but since he was actually said flat pan, he has to bring flat pan. So that would be like Beis Shammai, who says whatever you said goes, even if it wasn't what you meant to say. Beis Shammai hektish tos hektish. Rabbi Zira boy kumi Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Zira asked Rabbi Yossi, "V'lama lei non patrina lei." Why don't we explain divrei kol? So we're into everybody. Where he says, "B'machvas amarti," it's where he insists. It's where he insists that he initially. One second. Yeah, it's a little more complicated. I made it. Let me confuse you a little bit more. The case is like initially when I thought the case like this. He said he wants to bring a flat pan. He ends up bringing deep dish. So according to Beis Hillel, the Gemara thinks it shouldn't be kodesh because you intended to bring flat pan. That's how he made his neder. What he brought deep dish doesn't fulfill his neder, so it's not hektish. How does it become hektish? According to Beis Hillel, because Beis Hillel hektish those not shmei hektish. So how does the wrong? How does what he actually brings become kadosh? It's not what he said. So scratch what I said before. I see what I said before is wrong. I'm not modifying it before. I'm changing it. He said I want to bring flat pan. He brings deep dish. How does it work? That's not what you took and took an error on. It should be kodesh. So it maybe it works according to Beis Shammai, the Gemara says, because Beis Shammai says hektish toast is hektish. So he made a mistake, brought the wrong thing, but it's still hektish, right? So that would be according to Beis Shammai. According to Beis Hillel, it wouldn't work. So then what it says, maybe it works even according to Beis Hillel. Again, in the third line down, I want to explain different code works according to everybody. He says, "B'machvas amarti." And now when he brings it, he says, he brings a flat pan, and he says, "I said flat pan," but he didn't. He said deep dish. But that's not already hektish kos, because then he has in mind to be makdish now as a machvas, because albeit he forgot what he said originally. But since he thinks he said machvas, so that suffices to make a kodesh even according to Beis Hillel. Where he doesn't know what he said originally, and now he brings the exact opposite, so then it might only work according to Beis Shammai. Where he claims to have known what he originally gave, and that basically bringing the pledge, and that basically bringing that should suffice, right? If a person said that he wants to bring, be that as it may, if a person says he wants to bring in a flat pan, and then he said afterwards he wants to bring in a deep dish, then Yotza, the stock, he actually is Yotze his second neder. Okay? Now, that seems to be partial. Everybody agrees, everybody should agree with that. If he said originally Marcheshes, and now he brings a machvas, and he says he claimed, and he says he wants to bring actually it's the opposite. He says he wanted to bring a machvas, and now he brought actually marcheshes, and he said he wants to bring a marcheshes. Then of course he's yotze. So that seems to be partial. So the shayter still changes the girsa. And he says you'd say avul imamar re'elai b'machvas. He said he wants to bring a machvas. Because of Amar b'marcheshes nodarti, and then he said, then he changed his mind, and then he lied. I mean, not intentionally, but said, no, I promised a deep dish, not a flat pan. So then, ve'evi b'marcheshes, and he brought a marcheshes, lo kadesho, that it's not about hektish, and that's going to be Beis Hillel. He changes around the Gemara totally. The Gemara is coming to tell us what according to Beis Hillel the halacha is. That where he said adamantly that I'm bringing this according to my initial neder, which was marcheshes. So then his korban is not a valid korban, because his initial neder was not that. He's making a mistake, and hektish tos lav shmei hektish. So Rabbi Zira says that if a guy says initially machvas, and then he comes along, according to Shai Teres Tzirol, this is the way to read it. If he said initially machvas, and then bring machvas, of course he's yotze. If he says machvas, if he says I initially said machvas, and brings the machvas, then he's yotze. But if he says he initially said machvas, and it's not true, and the machvas he brings now is incorrect because initially said marcheshes, then Beis Hillel would say hektish tos lav shmei hektish. It's not considered to be valid. So again, according to let's read that again according to the Shai Teres Tzirol. Says more Rabbi Zira, the third line down. Zira boy kum Rabbi Yosef lo malei le'anon patron lo why learn divrei hakol. Bomer machvas amarti. If he actually says machvas amarti, that I said machvas, right? So then he's yotze with his machvas, which he brings now. Havim amar re'elai b'machvas, but if he said initially re'elai b'machvas, and then v'chozav ba'amar b'marcheshes, and then he said, I made a mistake. Havim amar re'elai b'machvas, chozav ba'amar b'marcheshes, nodarti. he throws in the word nadarti because he thinks that he could brought him marcheshes, and behaving marcheshes. He brought him marcheshes. Again, doing the Kodesh Shari Teretz Yisrael, lo kodesh, it's not kodesh. You know, I'm afraid I just totally confused you, right? Yeah. Okay, let me just do it according to the Gemara. Forget the Shari Teretz Yisrael. Let me just do it as it says it here. Let's do it again. Rabbi Zero says, "Is there anybody calling Rabbi Yossi? Is there saying for Rabbi Yossi? Lamalei Pochin lo divrei. Why I say that works according to everybody? No, it's again. It says if he brought him, if he pledged machva, if he said machvas and brought marcheshes and brought machvas, he wasn't Yotzei. You know, let's go back to the beginning of the page. It won't take long. Bottom of the previous page. Tzvina. Just go easier because it's going to be choppy. Tzvina. No, Tavati. No, I'm going to realize machvas. First say he wants to bring machvas. Vei marcheshes, he brought marcheshes. Marcheshes, vei machvas. It's not Yotzei. Rabbi Yossi b'shem Rishon Meloch said, yeah, he's not Yotzi, but how does it get to be hektish? This is not what he obligated himself to bring. So he says to Beis Shammai, hektish toes hektish. Even though it's a mistake, it's still hektish. Rabbi Zira Boikum Rabbi Yossi, why is it be Beis hektish? Why is it to be Beis Shammai? V'lomalei Pochin lo divrei kol. Why say it works according to everybody? B'oimer b'machvas amarti, when he's under the impression, mistaken though it might be, that he said machvas. And he brought machvas. Now it's true it's a mistaken impression, but the fact that now in his heart he's willing to bring a machvas, that should be the reason why it's kodesh. Grant he originally said marcheshes, but the fact that now he thinks he said machvas and he brings that basis, that suffices even according to Beis Hillel, right? Boy machvas amarti. Avlim amar re'elai b'machvas. But what if a guy said harei b'machvas, right? That he wants to bring upon himself a machvas. V'chazar v'omar b'marcheshes, and then he explicitly said, not that's what I thought, right? But he said now he makes a new neder. He said re'elai machvas. Now he says re'elai marcheshes. So then, and then he brings whatever he brings. He's yotzei, but he's only yotzei one of the two things, obviously, because now he has a double whammy on himself. Both flat pan and deep dish. So again, it comes out very simple, according to the simple way of reading the Gemara, that what we're looking for is a way that it shouldn't be hektish toast in order for work out according to Beis Hillel. So all that has to be is that he doesn't say, I'm just bringing a coin to whatever I said originally, because then obviously, if what he's doing now contradicts what he said originally, it's not going to be hektish, only according to Beis Shammai. He has to say, I'm bringing it now, because this is what I think I said. Those words, this is what I think I said, make it work even according to Beis Hillel. Because that means he's willing now to make it hektish on that basis. Lamai says he yates his original letter with this? No. So that's what the more concludes. So it doesn't conclude explicitly. First said Harei Elai Machvas, and then said Harei Elai Marcheshes. Yes, he's yates it, but only one, not the other. He has to bring the other one as well. Okay, as Rabbi Yossi b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, Divrei HaKol, it works out according to everybody, both according to Beis Hillel and according to Beis Shammai. Rabbi Yehuda, we're going to, because we're not talking about where it's total mistake, what he claims is what he originally meant. Rabbi Yehuda asks, Amar Re'el Lai, a person says he wants to bring Oba Machvas O Marcheshes. He doesn't set it. Says, I don't know, sometimes I like deep dish, sometimes I like flat pizza. I don't know. Of course, he's not eating this, but theoretically, right? Because the Kohen eats it. The Chazar says, he says, the Chazar, and then he said again b'machvas, and afterwards it says v'chazar, but it should be o chazar, or he says marcheshes again. So he said either or, and then he said again one of the two. Said either machvas or marcheshes, and he said machvas, or he said again marcheshes. Later in Pazi b'shem Rabbi Acha and Rabbi Chaim b'shem Rabbi Yossi said kovan afilu bepeh. whatever he determines he determines even by verbalizing. Because now he can, whatever he says goes. Okay, he said either, in other words, he said originally either or machvas or marcheshes. And then afterwards he says machvas. Or he says afterwards marcheshes. That verbal determination changes his original wishy-washiness. Which is a big chiddush. Because the Bavli holds by, the Sharater still bring this down, Bavli holds by when you're buying kinyan, you're buying sets of birds, chatos and ola, so it's either said only when you buy them, or when the Kohen does malika on them. But there's no period in the middle when you can verbally designate them. It's either at point of purchase, or at point of sacrifice, but not any time in the middle. So here we're actually allowing him to designate his netter sometime in the middle. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but we're actually allowing him to clarify what he meant in the midstream, which is something which is obviously not necessarily always the case. Okay, I know we don't get particularly excited about such a chiddush, but that's what it says. Afilu b'peh, even with his mouth, even without a Kohen designation. Some men, they wanted to say, Afilu yomin tovim koivim. Even Yotif determines. Now, the way the Moshe determines is, I don't like it, but he says, whatever mincha you need for this Yotif will determine what it is, even though you yourself lifted wishy-washy. That's very difficult because Lamaisa, no Yontif requires any specific kind of mincha unless it's for a korban tzibur. So that, I don't think that that's the pshat. I think the Shara Teres Yisrael is correct. He says that the pshat is that you can even determine it verbally on Yontif. Normally you can't be makdish things on the Yontif because it looks like you're being makdish kinyan, right? Making a kinyanim, so that's forbidden. But to make the verbal designation of the korban, that he can make on Yontif. Also, he says that it doesn't even have to be verbal. V'afilu kelim kovim, even, tell me we finished 5 minutes. V'afilu kelim kovim, even whatever dish you use determines what its status is. Okay, even if you didn't verbally designate it, by putting a specific pan, that designates what kind of mincha it's going to be. Tom Tivin, let's over there. Rabbi Yosef Omer also shogeg k'mezid b'tmura. By Tmura, if you did it unintentionally, it's like intentionally. So, yeah, normally. But here, since you already said before Yontif, machvas or marcheshes, on Yontif you can say, you know what, I want it to be machvas or marcheshes. Yes, the primary component was before Yontif. Now, and Shabbos, I assume it would be work as well. Tanti letter Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Omer also shogeg k'mezid b'tmura. Now, of course, Tmura, both animals are kadosh, right? And you get flogged to boot if you did it b'mezid. But if you did it b'shogeg, of course you don't get flogged, but both animals are kadosh, okay? Below it's a shogeg b'mezid mukdoshim, and that not by hekdesh, shogeg is not like mezid. Now the question is what exactly that means. By hekdesh, shogeg is not like mezid. Chizkiah says, l'shogeg below saseh. By shogeg you transgress the lo saseh of Tamura, and it says here lememir, but it should be lemezid below saseh, also transgress the lo saseh. However, avlim bo lomar, what if a guy came to say to Tmuras, it should be in bo lomar Tmuras chulin, v'amar Tmuras ola. Okay, throw in the word Tmura twice, lo kosher. If a guy wanted to say this is Tmura of chulin, and say he said Tmuras ola, he muffed up. So it's not kadosh, because he's trying to make so by the iser of Tmura, when he's doing it right, takes place shogeg or mezid, makes no difference. However, when he's does it wrong, I mean he wanted to say Tmuras chulin, which is incorrect. There's no Tmura of chulin, and he does say it right, says Tmuras ola. It's still a meaningless gesture. Okay? It's interesting. You don't have to have actually both animals in front of you. I don't know if I remember that. But if you have to say Tmuras ola. So in Tmuras ola means that you have both animals. If you intend to say Tmuras chulin, which obviously is nonsense, and instead said Tmuras ola, which is meaningful. So nevertheless, we don't penalize you for that. We assume that we assume that it's meaningless, low kosher. Rabbi Yochanan, not true. Bola matmuras chulin again, tmuras chulin. V'amar tmuras ola kosher. Even though you verbalized it, what you verbalized was not what you meant to say, but you said something effective, and it makes the animal tmura. Avli bola mar ola v'amar chulin. But if you wanted to say ola and said chulin and said the other way around, you wanted to say tmuras ola, but he said chulin instead, then lo kosher. Okay, that doesn't work. Besides Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yochanan's interpretation of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, that shogeg doesn't work like meizim and mukdashim. Really, that a person who says chulin instead of ola doesn't make it kodesh. It's going kipasad Rabbi Yirmiyah al Beis Shammai mukdashim. Is going like Rabbi Yirmiyah's shot in Beis Shammai by kochim. So Rabbi Yirmiyah says that if a person says chulin, meant to say chulin, and said ola, so according to Rabbi Yochanan, if a person said we had that back in Chafam Rav. If a person said chulin, a person said kodesh, even though he meant to say chulin according to Beis Shammai, so they're machlokas. Rabbi Yossi said, Rabbi Yirmiyah said it's kodesh. Rabbi Yossi said no, he had to have at least kavanah minimally to say kodesh, right? If he didn't have, and he said the wrong kodesh, he had kavanah to say kodesh A instead said kodesh B. So that works. That's hekdesh toast, and that works. But if you had a kavanah to say chulin instead kochim instead, it doesn't work. So it says so here too. Rabbi Yochanan said if a guy had kavanah to say he said kochim, if he had kavanah to say tumuras chulin, and he said tumuras ola, it's kocha. If he had in mind to say instead it said chulin, it's not kocha. So Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda by tmura, like Rabbi Yirmiyah, according to Beis Shammai b'mukdashim, that because he's saying if you meant to say tmuras chulin and said tmuras ola, it's kodesh, right? So that's like Beis Shammai said. If you meant to say chulin and said kachim, it's kodesh. Now the thing is, it's not precisely the same, because it could be by tmura it's more severe than making something kodesh to begin with, but it's the same idea. Rabbi Yochanan saying if you meant to say tmuras chulin and said tmuras ola, it's kodesh, just like according to Beis Shammai, you meant to say chulin and said ola, it's kodesh. According to that opinion. Not according to the opinion, only said if you meant to say Kodesh A and said instead Kodesh B, that it's Kodesh. But the opinion said Chulin, and if you meant to say Chulin and said Kodshim, that it's Kodesh, that's Kodesh. Okay. The Gemara goes on, but it's late. I have Rachmanos on you and Rachmanos on myself. We'll stop here for tonight. It got complicated.